Culver is a very mission-driven organization. Our mission informs more or less everything we do here. With each new group of students I would have them write their personal mission statement. At the end of class, many of the kids who did take the time to think about it and do it right said that that was one of the most, it was a life-changing experience for them.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Scott Johnson. He's the Director of Marketing Communications at Culver Academies. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kelsey. Great to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Scott, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'll skip the childhood details and tell you that I attended Indiana University where I studied Slavic languages and cultures and business. Graduated in 1998 and then joined General Motors in operations management. Worked there for a few years and then joined Allison Transmission after General Motors declared bankruptcy, and worked in their global marketing and sales group for about 9 years before coming to Culver Academies. I came to Culver Academies to kind of change up my profession and get into teaching, which I did for a couple of years. And then somehow marketing just pulled me back in, and I became Director of Marketing and Communications about 4 years ago.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like you've had an interesting journey that kind of has led up to you being here as the Director of Marketing Communications at Culver Academy. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Culver Academies?
Well, Culver Academies is a college preparatory school. We're independent, and we are 100% boarding. So we're a boarding school in the middle of rural Indiana. What I like to say our niche is that we are a leadership academy, which has kind of become a buzzword in independent schools and frankly, all secondary education and higher education, if you think about it, over the years. But we've been doing a very unique blend of leadership education since 1894.
Interesting. Tell me a little bit more about, what makes Culver unique.
Well, Culver Academies is comprised of 3 institutions. We have Culver Military Academy for boys. We have Culver Girls Academy, and we have Culver Summer Schools and Camps. And we have all the things that a boarding school has. We have the rigorous academics, the wonderful faculty, the residential areas, and the student life programming. But we also have a very unique leadership education program that happens in the classroom and then is practiced in our student life system, which is military based for the boys, and for the girls it's based on an English prefect system.
That's really interesting. So talking about, the leadership skills, building those leadership skills, you've got the 3 different programs. It sounds like, you have probably seen a lot of change and a lot of growth over the years in your role, going from a teacher to now Director of Marketing Communications.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would say being a teacher really informed where I am now and what I do. It really gave me a good glimpse into the classroom experience and kind of how our kids learn and what kind of kids that do well at Culver. It's a very rigorous place. The schedule is challenging, which is a good thing, right? The kids have challenging academics, and then the student life structure, like I said, with the military aspect for the boys and the prefect system for the girls, really keeps these kids scheduled. And and I haven't even mentioned our athletics program, which is also world class in many areas, and it keeps the kids very busy.
That's fantastic. And, when you're talking about the three different academies, is it specific ages or is it high school only? Like, talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, great question. So Culver Military Academy and Culver Girls Academy are for grades 9 through 12. Culver Summer Schools and Camps, which we're kicking off here in about 10 days, that is anywhere from age 8 all the way up to age 16. So, and that's a 6-week summer program. And incidentally, that is also loosely based on a military structure. So the kids do marching. They have kind of a hierarchical system of ranks where the kids can attain leadership positions.
And is that also residential as well, the summer camp?
100%, yes.
Nice.
We have about 1,300 kids who attend our summer camps, and they board here on campus for the entire 6-week summer.
That's interesting. And you mentioned before talking about how being a teacher has, impacted the role that you currently have, understanding how kids learn, what kids are successful at Culver Academies. I was a school social worker for myself for several years, so I certainly understand, and appreciate the work that you did in the classroom. So talk to me a little bit about, how that's impacted your role as director of marketing. Is it a lot of, pulling in, kids that you think may be good fits for the program and for the school? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I was saying I was teaching in the Ron Rubin School for the Entrepreneur, and that experience really gave me, I guess, a unique perspective into one of our more unique offerings that really helps us hook students to come here, right? How many other schools, secondary schools, can say that they have a business school right here on campus that can help launch kids into whatever they want to do with business. It helps them get good business schools at the collegiate level, and many of them actually start kind of small businesses here on campus and then see where they go afterwards.
That's fantastic. What would you say is your favorite part about Culver Academies?
Ooh, my favorite part about Culver Academies. Well, I would say, for me personally, it's the lifestyle. After living in the city for a couple of decades, my family and I were really searching for something a little more tranquil, and we certainly found that here. And for me personally, as I'm still a competitive athlete, and so having the facilities available to me to do that, and also to do my job and kind of combine all that into more of a lifestyle, that was the big attraction for me.
That's fantastic. That's great. And, talking a little bit about being in, the residential academics in the boarding school-esque, like you said, talk to me, are there common misconceptions that you hear often, either from parents or students, about the process or anything like that?
I would say common misconceptions about boarding school, I think if we zoom out a little bit, those are more cultural than anything. I mean, think back to movies from the past where boarding schools are typically portrayed as a place for snobby rich kids, and then layer on top of that military schools, which again, cultural references and from Hollywood especially portray military schools as just hardcore kind of schools focused on discipline only for bad kids. And that neither of those are true. Here at Culver, about half our kids are receiving some sort of financial aid. Here at Culver, we're not a reform school. We do not accept kids in need of that specific type of reform. We accept kids that we think are going to do well here with the academic rigor and with the challenges of the student leadership system. And so those misconceptions they're antiquated and just simply not true.
That's interesting. And I imagine, part of your role is working to not only build, the Culver name and build it out, but also, teach people what the Culver way is, with youth led, like the student discipline team or student leadership team, I think is what you said. I imagine a lot of that is about teaching, the Culver way.
100%. And it is challenging in the current marketplace where leadership has become such a buzzword and everybody says, yeah, we create leaders, but let's talk about the process. Right here at Culver, a graduating senior will have received 200 hours of instruction, research-based instruction in leadership education. So that includes behavioral economics, ethics, and courses like that. So 200 hours of specific classroom instruction in this. And then by the time they graduate, they get to put that in practice in anywhere from about 1,000 hours to 2,000 hours in our student life systems. Again, military based for the boys and prefect system for the girls. So these kids are leading their peers. I mean, it's one of those things where you kind of got to witness it to understand it. So that's why I encourage people to go to our website where we have videos, we have photos where you can kind of see how we do leadership instruction here and why it's so important to us and why it's our key differentiator.
I think that's really interesting. So talking about those 200 hours of, research and evidence-based leadership classes, and then, the additional hours of, you said the 1,000 hours. Talk to me, what other ways are you able to integrate these leadership, qualities that you're looking to instill in your students? What ways makes the Culver Academies as vigorous as it is?
Well, I would say it's the combination of all of that for a teenager, right? It takes a specific kind of teenager to, number one, want to challenge themselves academically, spiritually as well. We do have required spiritual lifetime every week for every student, and then to undertake that leadership process where they are in very practical ways telling their peers what to do. Now that sounds like kind of an imperative, but it's more they're just building like teamwork skills, right? How do I get this group of 60 guys to achieve this goal? Or for the girls, how do I get this group of girls, to come together and to, achieve the best GPA on campus as a dorm? And then combine that with athletics. It's a lot. It's a lot for a teenager to handle, and that's why, I think our kids are so successful at the collegiate level and beyond. Is because of that challenge. You got to manage quite a bit as a teenager.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Scott, this has been a really insightful conversation. As we start to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about Culver Academies, your experience as a teacher, now as the director of marketing and communications, anything that you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, yeah, I think here's one tidbit. Culver is a very mission-driven organization. Our mission informs more or less everything we do here. And one thing that I found very useful, and one thing I actually taught in the classroom, was that, of course, every organization should have a mission statement. They should be very clear on why they're here. But every individual should do that as well. Yeah, so on the third day of class, with each new group of students I would have them write their personal mission statement. We used a template provided by a guy by the name of JD Roth, who runs the blog Get Rich Slowly. And, how teenagers are. Some took it seriously, some didn't. But at the end of class, many of the kids who did take the time to think about it and do it right said that was one of the most, it was a life-changing experience for them. And then a decade ago when I first did that, I also found it to be a life-changing experience. And that's what led me towards the path of teaching and of coming to Culver Academies.
That's fantastic. That's great. And I think that's an exercise that, a lot of people can do to, take a little self-awareness and a self-reflection. And sometimes I imagine, I was a school social worker for teenagers. So, sometimes that their world can be very small, but if you look at a mission statement, it can help them kind of open their eyes and, take a step back, I imagine.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Scott, this was a great conversation. I appreciate you talking to me about Culver Academies, the 3 different programs, the great leadership programs that you have. I think it's absolutely fantastic, the work that you guys are doing for the teenagers in your area. And, I appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kelsey.
Great to have you.